The 2024 presidential race is already one of the most talked about in recent history, but there's one question everyone seems to be overlooking. Does Kamala Harris really have what it takes to win? While the media is quick to paint her as the Democratic front-runner, a closer look at the landscape reveals some unsettling truths for her campaign, and some surprising strengths for Donald Trump. Let's face it, Kamala's campaign is struggling. The mainstream media, which once overwhelmingly supported Biden in 2020, is noticeably less enthusiastic about endorsing her. Major outlets that praised Biden are now backing away, leaving her with fewer powerful allies in the press. Meanwhile, Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, is drawing more favorable attention than Kamala's choice of Tim Walz, who many see as uninspiring and lacking political punch. But it doesn't stop there. While Kamala's celebrity endorsements, like those from Taylor Swift and Beyonce, have fizzled out, Trump is racking up high-profile support from figures like Bobby Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and even Elon Musk. And while Kamala sticks to traditional media interviews, Trump is connecting directly with voters through platforms like Joe Rogan's podcast, giving him a more direct line to the people, bypassing the filtered narratives of mainstream news. Trump is also gaining traction in unexpected places. His rallies are drawing massive crowds, tens of thousands showing up to hear him speak, while Kamala is struggling to fill venues. Even more surprising is the shift in voter support, with key demographics like Jewish and Black voters moving towards Trump, while Kamala's grip on her base is slipping. So what does all this mean for the 2024 race? The landscape is shifting in ways that could give Trump a real edge, even against fierce opposition from the Democrats. Stick with me, because in this video, we're diving deep into why these changes matter and what they could mean for the future of the election. As the 2024 election approaches, one of the most significant shifts we're seeing is the weakening support for Kamala Harris from the very institutions that helped get Biden elected in 2020. Many of the mainstream media outlets, some of the same ones that endorsed Biden just 4 years ago, are now noticeably absent when it comes to endorsing Kamala. Major newspapers like USA Today and the LA Times, which once firmly backed Biden, have either remained neutral or even hinted at backing away from the vice president. This is a massive red flag. In a race this tight, media endorsements are crucial for mobilizing voters and shaping public opinion, but the lack of enthusiasm for Kamala speaks volumes about the growing doubts over her viability as the Democratic nominee. In contrast, Trump's campaign has not only maintained solid support, but has gained ground in ways many didn't expect. One of the reasons for this is his strategic choice of J.D. Vance as his vice presidential pick. Unlike Kamala's choice of Tim Walz, who is often described as uninspiring and lacking political gravitas, Vance has brought a fresh, compelling voice to the ticket. Vance, a political outsider with a strong following among conservative voters, adds a layer of excitement and energy to the Trump campaign that Kamala's partnership with Walz simply doesn't match. While Kamala's pick is seen as safe at best, Trump's decision signals that he's doubling down on boldness and shaking things up. This difference in running mates reflects a broader dynamic at play. Trump's ability to inspire and energize voters versus Kamala's struggled to keep the Democratic base excited. Despite being the first female vice president and the first person of color in that role, Kamala's appeal has been lukewarm at best. Many Democratic voters, especially in swing states, have yet to rally around her with the same enthusiasm they showed for Biden in 2020. The historic nature of her candidacy doesn't seem to be enough to sway many voters who are now more focused on results and leadership than identity politics. Trump, on the other hand, has shown that he's not just surviving, he's thriving in the face of adversity. With the backing of conservative media, key figures like Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, and a massive, ever-growing base, his momentum only continues to grow. The political dynamics in 2024 may look very different from what many predicted even a few months ago, and Trump's strategic moves are setting him up for success. One of the most striking differences between Trump and Kamala Harris's campaigns in 2024 is their approach to media and voter engagement. While Kamala continues to rely heavily on traditional media outlets, mainstream TV interviews, newspaper op-eds, and scripted speeches, Trump has found a way to bypass the gatekeepers and speak directly to the American people in ways that are shaking up the political conversation. Trump's media strategy is revolutionary in its simplicity. He's using alternative platforms to connect with voters where they're most engaged. Instead of sticking to the the predictable rounds of interviews on CNN or MSNBC, Trump has made effective use of podcasts and digital platforms like Joe Rogan's hugely popular podcast. Rogan's audience, a mix of independent thinkers and politically disengaged voters, represents a goldmine for Trump. By tapping into these spaces, Trump isn't just talking to his base, he's speaking to voters who are either undecided or disillusioned with the political establishment. In contrast, Kamala's reliance on traditional media interviews often comes across as forced, scripted, and disconnected from the issues voters care about most. It's not just the medium, it's the message. Trump's message has been clear, consistent, and tailored to the frustrations of the American public. While Kamala continues to focus on themes of fear and division, casting Trump as an existential threat to democracy, Trump's rhetoric has remained grounded in addressing real-world issues: the economy, jobs, and national security. Fear-mongering tactics used by the Democratic establishment, calling Trump dangerous or accusing him of threatening democracy, might work with some of their loyal followers, but they've largely fallen flat with independent voters. In fact, many swing state voters are growing tired of this divisive narrative and are looking for more substantial policy discussions. Voter behavior is another area where Trump is seeing an unexpected boost. Traditionally, Democrats have dominated early voting and absentee ballots, but recent trends are showing a shift. Republicans are not only holding their ground, they're leading in early voting. This shift is particularly noticeable in key battleground states, where Trump's message has resonated with working-class voters, suburbanites, and even disaffected Democrats. In fact, the growing number of Republicans voting early is seen as a sign that Trump's support is deeper than some analysts have given him credit for. This shift is a major red flag for Kamala's campaign. Early voting is crucial in any election, and the fact that Trump's voters are already mobilizing in significant numbers is an indicator that he's building a strong foundation for the general election. With Kamala struggling to draw the same level of excitement or support, the 2024 race is looking more competitive by the day. While media strategy and voter engagement are crucial to any campaign, there are other, more subtle yet powerful factors that are working in Trump's favor as we move closer to the 2024 election. Beyond his media dominance, Trump is seeing increasing support from business leaders, international markets, and even key demographics that traditionally lean Democratic, groups that Kamala Harris is struggling to maintain. First, let's talk about the business world. Over the past few months, there has been a noticeable shift in how corporate leaders are positioning themselves ahead of the 2024 race. While some high-profile figures in tech and finance initially distanced themselves from Trump, there's been a major shift in tone. Many influential business figures are reaching out to Trump for advice or expressing support, signaling that they see him as the likely victor and want to align themselves with his administration. This trend is a stark contrast to Kamala, who has yet to garner the same kind of corporate backing. The business community knows that a Trump victory could signal a return to pro-growth policies, tax cuts, deregulation, and a strong stance on trade that are more favorable to them than Kamala's progressive agenda. Internationally, the fear of Trump's tariffs and tough stance on global trade has sent ripples through global markets. European stocks have taken a hit, partly due to the growing expectation that Trump will return to his America First policies, including heavy tariffs and trade restrictions on countries like China. This drop in international markets isn't just a sign of economic worry, it's also an indicator that world leaders are preparing for a Trump victory. The fact that global markets are adjusting their strategies in anticipation of a Trump comeback shows just how much influence he still has on the international stage. Kamala, on the other hand, hasn't generated the same level of global concern or excitement, which leaves her campaign at a disadvantage in the international arena. Domestically, there's another unexpected shift. Trump's appeal among traditionally Democratic voting blocs, such as Jewish and Muslim voters, is growing. In recent months, polling has shown an increasing number of Jewish Americans, especially those in swing states, moving towards Trump's camp. This demographic shift is significant because it represents a loss for Kamala, whose base was once a reliable pillar of the Democratic Party. Similarly, Trump is seeing growing support among Muslim communities, traditionally strong Democratic voters who are now disillusioned with Kamala's policy. In fact, it's not just the Jewish and Muslim community. Trump is also making inroads with black voters who have historically been more aligned with the Democrats. His messaging on economic opportunity, criminal justice reform, and job creation has resonated with more black Americans, further chipping away at Kamala's base. Finally, we can't overlook the importance of grassroots support. Trump's rallies have become a symbol of his campaign's strength. While Kamala struggles to fill venues, Trump is drawing tens of thousands of supporters to every event, creating an electrifying atmosphere that generates media coverage and grassroots enthusiasm. In contrast, Kamala's rallies have been underwhelming, with far fewer attendees and little excitement. This lack of enthusiasm is a critical vulnerability in a race where voter turnout is everything. It's clear, Trump is not just surviving the opposition, he's thriving in areas that could determine the outcome of the 2024 election. His broadening base of support across businesses, demographics, and even international markets paints a picture of a political powerhouse with momentum on his side. As Kamala's campaign falters, these shifts could prove to be the difference makers in the coming months. So what does all of this mean for the 2024 election? As we've seen, there are some powerful shifts happening behind the scenes, shifts that point to a much stronger chance for Donald Trump than many people are willing to admit. Whether it's the weakening support for Kamala Harris from the media and key demographics, Trump's strategic use of non-traditional media to engage voters, or the growing backing from business leaders and influential figures, it's clear that his campaign is building momentum in ways that could shake up the entire race. And while Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party continue to focus on fear tactics and divisive rhetoric, Trump is staying focused on what matters to voters, jobs, the economy, and the future of the nation. His ability to connect with working class Americans, rally diverse voter bases, and dominate the media conversation speaks volumes about the potential direction of this election. But of course, we're still months away from November 2024, and the landscape can change quickly. What's clear right now is that Trump's path to victory is looking a lot more likely than many expected, even in the face of fierce opposition from Kamala and the Democrats. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Is Trump's rise in support a sign that he's ready for a comeback, or do you believe Kamala Harris will find a way to turn things around? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get the conversation going. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 2024 race, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future updates.